Hello, I am Brian Fox, and this is I Hate Rock Music, and this video is going to be about a very strange band that certainly a lot of collectors know about now, a band called Stark Naked. The very striking covers you can see from the thumbnail, and this is that whole period from 1970 to 1972, 73, where RCA was signing up a lot of really interesting bands. This band got signed the same year as Granicus, for example, and of course Holy Moses and Fat and Ursa Major, Highway Robbery. All these really cool bands were on RCA, and Stark Naked is another one, but they're very unusual. They came out of Levittown, Long Island, New York. Were together from about 68 to 71, and they were known for their exotic theatrical live shows. So let's remember this is long before Kiss and Alice Cooper. I have no idea what kind of shows they put on, but apparently they were pretty dramatic. So we got Lynn Bunn on vocals and percussion, Richard Belsky on lead guitar, James Monahan on guitar and vocals, Paul Venier on keyboards, percussion, and vocals, Tom Rubino on bass, and John Fragos on drums. And so a pretty full lineup, including a female singer, and she's only out front on a couple of things, so they don't utilize her as much. But it's kind of nice having her in there. And then the twin guitar work is really good, and the rhythm section is really strong. But the strongest player in the band, and they acknowledge that in everything I've read about them, is that Paul Venier on keyboards. Obviously, he was classically trained and very sophisticated keyboard work that's featured throughout the album. In fact, the first thing you hear when you put on the album is a piano intro for a song called All Them Witches. And it's got very sinister lyrics, and the record is pretty dark overall, kind of sinister, and both musically and lyrically. So they definitely had a vision of kind of what they wanted to do. And I know there was bands like Damnation of Adam Blessing, for example, that kind of had this same kind of vibe in a way. But this band is really peculiar. There's some really cool stuff that's hard rock. There's definitely some progressive elements just because of the caliber of the musicianship in the band. And then very interesting arrangements. And you can kind of see the jump off point. Apparently, live they used to do White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane, which would be a natural for a band like this. And apparently, it was a real crowd pleaser along with Janis Joplin's Piece of My Heart. But then when they get into their own material, it's definitely uh, progressive elements and some hard rocking elements, and then just very lush, expanded arrangements with lots of dynamics. And there's only 6 songs on there, so a couple of them are pretty long. Starts out with All Them Witches, which ends up getting pretty hard rock oriented, and then it gets into a song called Done, which has a lot of really great piano work, a nice ballad, has some progressive elements, and then a really peculiar song called Sins, that almost sounds like grunge. It's got a really interesting riff. I think it's a fuzz bass, and then the female vocalist is up front more, and there's some really stunning guitar work on it. And oddly enough, that's the song they picked to release as a single, and it did pretty well. It cracked the top 100 in the Billboard charts, and so I was really surprised by that. But then the heart of the album is a song called Look Again, which is very long, very elaborate, and has a lot of drama to it. And once again, has a kind of a dark vibe to it. There's a lot of really nice, interesting female male vocal harmonies going on in this record, which distinguishes it from a lot of other bands. Obviously, they could have done without her, but she does add an interesting quality to this band, this record. So then it goes into a song called "Wasted Time," which is a nice ballad, and then a song called "Iceberg" finishes up, and once again, pretty hard rock, lots of cool guitar work. We get to hear what the lead guitar player's made of a little bit more on that song, and pretty dramatic. So even though that the record came out on RCA in 1971, to me it sounds like it could have easily been 68, 69, maybe 1970. So for them to kind of have this sound in 1971 kind of surprises me a little bit. I definitely would have loved to have heard a second album from this band, to see what direction they went in, and see their the skill level uh, go up a little bit more, and see where their songwriting led, because very intriguing record. And once again, like I say about so many of these bands, really pretty unlike anything I've heard before. Um, so Stark Naked. I don't know what else to say about them, but I don't need to, because I got a link below. You can check them out and see what you think yourself. And like I have to say about many of these records, it's not something that's going to just wallop you over the head as soon as you hear it. And it's a record very well worth sitting down and listening to the whole thing from start to finish, to listen to it unfold, see what kind of palette they have and what kind of directions they go in, and all these complicated elements they bring in, including some pretty interesting, elaborate arrangements on a lot of this stuff. So only 6 songs. That's all we got. So Stark Naked, check them out. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching.